I need to make love to you. Don't move, or it will hurt more." Those words, whispered with tenderness and passion, marked the moment when two broken hearts finally found the healing they had been seeking for so long. Before we dive into the story, leave a comment saying where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Memorial Hospital was the most prestigious facility in Chicago, with its immaculate corridors and renowned doctors. That sunny June morning, Dr. Ethan Mitchell walked those corridors for the last time. At 42, his cold gaze contrasted with the beauty of his sculpted features. He had been the most brilliant neurosurgeon in the country until a car accident destroyed the nerves in his hands. After 3 surgeries and 18 months of physical therapy, he still couldn't hold a scalpel without trembling. "Dr. Mitchell, the board would like to see you before your departure," said the secretary with a trembling voice. Ethan adjusted his tie with an awkward movement. "Tell them I've already said my goodbyes." He left the hospital carrying only a box with his diplomas and awards, relics of a life that no longer existed. In the parking lot, his driver waited beside the black Mercedes. "To the lake house in Lake Forest. I don't want to see anyone." That same morning, miles away, Olivia Carter prepared her small massage therapy clinic in downtown Lake Forest. At 35, her chestnut hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders as she arranged essential oils on the shelves. The white walls were decorated with certificates in holistic therapies and traditional Chinese medicine. "Good morning, Olivia. I brought clean towels," said Emma, her 20-year-old assistant. "Thank you, Emma. Do we have a busy day?" "Yes, but I received a strange call this morning. A woman named Rachel Mitchell. She said she needed to schedule a home visit for her brother, a doctor who had an accident. She offered triple your normal rate." Olivia frowned. She hadn't done home visits since. She took a deep breath, pushing away the memories. "And what did you answer?" "That I would talk to you." She mentioned they'd tried everything with traditional medicine, but nothing worked. Olivia was silent, weighing her options. Her instinct told her to refuse, but something in her heart spoke louder. "Call back and ask for the address. I'll go after my last patient." That afternoon, Olivia drove her small Honda along the lakeside road until she reached an isolated mansion. The stone house, with huge windows overlooking the lake, seemed as cold as it was imposing. Rachel Mitchell, an elegant woman in her 50s, welcomed her at the door with a tense smile. "Thank you for coming, Ms. Carter. My brother doesn't know you're here. He rejected all the alternative treatments I suggested. So how do you expect me to help him?" "I told him you're a physical therapist recommended by a colleague. Please, he's desperate, even if he won't admit it." Olivia followed Rachel to a spacious living room with a view of the lake. And there, Olivia saw Ethan for the first time, sitting in a leather armchair, contemplating the lake with lost eyes. Ethan turned slowly, and their gazes met. Deep blue against honey amber. For an instant, time seemed to stop. "I don't need more physical therapy," he said sharply. "I'm not a physical therapist," Olivia responded, deciding to be honest. "I'm a massage therapist specializing in neurological recovery." Ethan laughed bitterly. "Quackery." "All right," Olivia interrupted, placing her bag on the floor. "If after 15 minutes you feel absolutely nothing, I'll leave and never bother you again." 15 minutes, he finally conceded, rising with difficulty. Rachel showed them to an adjacent room, where a massage table was already prepared. When they were alone, Olivia felt the weight of the challenge she had accepted. "You can lie down and remove just your shirt, please," she instructed, keeping her voice professional while preparing her oils. Ethan obeyed in silence, his movements revealing frustration with his own limitation. When he finally lay down, Olivia approached and, for the first time, touched his hand. An electric current seemed to run through both of them. She felt his pain, not just physical, but the deep agony of a lost identity. He felt the inexplicable warmth of those small but firm hands, a warmth that seemed to reach beyond the skin. "Your hands are shaking," she whispered. "They always shake now," he replied, bitterness in his voice. Olivia closed her eyes and began her work, her fingers mapping invisible paths of tension and blockage. In her touch, there was more than technique. There was intuition, there was surrender. 15 minutes passed without either of them noticing. When Olivia finally pulled away, she found Ethan's gaze fixed on her. "Time's up," she said softly. "Should I leave?" Ethan looked at his own hands. For a brief moment, the tremor had decreased. "Come back tomorrow," he answered, and it wasn't a request, but it wasn't an order either. It was something between them, a silent acknowledgement that against all odds, they had found something impossible in that first touch. The following days established an unexpected routine. Every afternoon at 5, Olivia arrived at the lakeside mansion. At first, Ethan remained cold and distant, responding with monosyllables to the professional questions she asked. During the sessions, however, something changed. Under Olivia's touch, the mask of indifference slowly melted away. During the 5th session, while working on his fingers with precise and gentle movements, Olivia noticed a framed photograph on a nearby table. It showed Ethan in an operating room, smiling proudly. "Neurosurgery?" she asked, breaking the habitual silence. Ethan hesitated before answering. "Yes, nerve reconstruction surgery. My specialty was my specialty. You must have saved many lives. 247 surgeries, 239 patients saved." His voice sounded distant. 8 people I couldn't help. I remember the name of each one." Olivia felt the weight of those words. It was the first time he had shared something so personal. "And now, you are the patient," she observed gently. Ethan abruptly withdrew his hands. "I don't need your pity." "I didn't offer pity," Olivia replied firmly. "I offered understanding. They're different things." Their gazes met, and this time neither looked away. "Why did you choose massage therapy?" Ethan asked unexpectedly as she packed away her oils. Olivia smiled slightly. "Would you believe I was studying medicine? 2nd year, when I realized I wanted something different." "You quit?" "I changed direction. I wanted to heal in a way that's more complete." "Complete?" Ethan raised an eyebrow skeptically. "Traditional medicine heals the body, but often forgets it's connected to the mind, to emotions, to the person's energy." Olivia closed her bag. "Your hands aren't just physically injured, Dr. Mitchell. They're in mourning." His expression hardened. "Absurd. Is it really? Your hands were your identity. Through them you saved lives, commanded teams, demonstrated your excellence. Now that they shake, you no longer know who you are." The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan stood up, his face pale with contained anger. "I think our session is over for today." Olivia didn't back down. "Tomorrow we'll work on your left forearm. The energy blockage is more intense there." He didn't respond, but he also didn't permanently dismiss her, which Olivia interpreted as a small victory. The next morning, something unexpected happened. While Olivia was preparing her clinic, Ethan appeared at the door. He was wearing casual clothes, something she had never seen before, and looked like he hadn't slept much. "Dr. Mitchell? Is everything okay?" "Ethan," he corrected, looking uncomfortable. "I came to apologize for my behavior yesterday." Olivia observed him with surprise. The arrogant man she had met was now showing a vulnerability that didn't fit with his previous image. "There's no need. I was invasive. You were honest," he conceded. "And after you left, I tried to do a simple procedure. I managed to hold a pen for almost a minute without my hand trembling violently." Olivia's eyes lit up. "That's wonderful. It's an insignificant beginning." He tried to downplay it, but there was a spark of hope in his eyes that didn't go unnoticed. "Would you like to have coffee?" Olivia asked impulsively. "I have an hour before my first patient." To her surprise, Ethan accepted. They walked to a small cafe by the lake, where they sat at a table overlooking the water. The breeze stirred Olivia's hair, and Ethan found himself admiring how the morning sunlight illuminated her face. "What was your life like before the accident?" she asked, while they waited for their order. Ethan contemplated the lake for a moment. "Busy. I operated 5, sometimes 6 days a week. I often slept at the hospital." "Family?" "Divorced for 4 years. No children. Rachel is my only family, actually." Olivia nodded, understanding. It must have been difficult to maintain relationships with such a schedule. My ex-wife said I was married to medicine. He gave an ironic smile. Maybe she was right. And now? What do you do with your time? Ethan was silent for a moment. Nothing relevant. I read. I look at the lake. I contemplate how much life can change in 5 seconds of distraction at the wheel. The waitress brought the coffees, creating a pause in the conversation. Olivia noticed how Ethan's hands trembled as he tried to hold the cup. Without thinking, she extended her hands and placed them over his, stabilizing them. "Breathe," she whispered. Ethan should have withdrawn his hands, should have rejected that help, but something in her touch, so natural, so without judgment, made him remain still. For a few seconds their hands remained joined on the table, and the trembling visibly decreased. "How do you do that?" he asked, his voice low and intense. "It's not me," Olivia answered. "It's you allowing your body to remember how it was before." When they finally separated their hands, something had changed between them. It wasn't just the therapist-patient relationship, nor was it just attraction. It was a mutual recognition of two broken people who somehow seemed to complete each other. As they said goodbye at the door of the clinic, their gazes remained connected for longer than necessary. "See you later, Olivia," he said, her name sounding like music on his lips. "See you later, Ethan," she replied, realizing it was the first time she had called him by his first name. In the following weeks, the relationship between Olivia and Ethan evolved in a subtle but undeniable way. The therapy sessions continued, now at Olivia's clinic, and the progress was visible. Ethan could now hold objects for longer periods, and the tremors, though still present, had significantly decreased. After the sessions, it became customary to walk together around the lake. During these walks, Ethan would talk about his patients, about the adrenaline of emergency surgeries. Olivia shared stories of her studies in traditional medicine in China, of the people she had helped, of the skepticism she had faced. On a particularly pleasant afternoon, they sat on the grass to watch the sunset. "My right hand almost didn't shake today," he commented, extending it to demonstrate. A slight tremor was still visible, but nothing compared to the initial condition. Olivia smiled, genuinely happy with his progress. "Your body is remembering. The neural connection is strengthening. Or maybe it's magic," he said with a half smile that completely transformed his face. Olivia laughed. It was good to see him joking, so different from the bitter man she had initially met. "Science explains many things, Dr. Mitchell, but not everything." "Ethan," he corrected, "after everything we've shared, I think we can dispense with formalities." The moment was interrupted by the sound of Olivia's phone. She checked the screen, and her face visibly paled. "Is everything okay?" Ethan asked, noticing the change. "Yes, it's just a former patient. I need to answer." She stepped away a few paces, speaking quietly on the phone. When she returned, her expression was closed, distant. "I need to go," she said, hastily gathering her things. "An emergency came up." "Can I help?" Ethan offered, concerned by her paleness. "No." The answer came too quickly. Olivia softened her tone. "Thank you, but it's something I need to resolve myself." Before he could insist, she said goodbye and quickly departed. Ethan remained, watching her silhouette disappear around the lake, with an uncomfortable feeling that there was much more to that story than she was willing to share. The next day, Olivia didn't show up for the scheduled session, nor the day after. Her phone went straight to voicemail, and when Ethan went to the clinic, he found only Emma, who seemed equally concerned. "She just said she needed to resolve a personal matter," the assistant explained. "She's never done this before." On the third day, unable to bear the uncertainty, Ethan used his old hospital contacts to obtain Olivia's residential address. It was a small apartment near the historic center of Lake Forest. He hesitated for a long time before knocking on the door. It was Olivia who opened, looking exhausted. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying for hours. "Ethan," her surprise was evident. "How did you find me?" "I have my methods," he replied dryly. "You disappeared." Had a personal problem, and you couldn't at least let me know." Olivia sighed deeply. "Come in." The apartment was small but cozy, decorated with travel objects and photographs. Ethan noticed that in none of them did Olivia appear accompanied. No family, no boyfriend, just her in different places around the world. "Sorry for the disappearing act," she said, offering him coffee. "It was an unexpected emergency." "The former patient?" Ethan asked, unable to hide the jealousy in his voice. Olivia looked at him for a long time before answering. "It wasn't a patient. It was my ex-husband." Ethan felt as if he'd been punched. "You were married?" "For 3 years." Her voice was loaded with contained emotions. "He wasn't a good husband. He hurt you," Ethan said, not as a question but as a statement. Olivia nodded slightly, avoiding his gaze. "That's why I stopped doing home visits. Jack was extremely jealous. He turned every patient visit into an accusation. In the end, he didn't need real reasons anymore." Ethan felt a growing anger. "And he showed up again?" "He called, saying he had changed, that he wanted to talk. When I refused a reconciliation..." She took a deep breath. "Let's just say that old habits are hard to break." "Did he hurt you again?" Ethan's voice was dangerously calm. "He tried. This time I was prepared." A small, sad smile appeared on her lips. 5 years of self-defense classes make a difference." Ethan approached slowly, and in a surprisingly gentle gesture for his trembling hands, touched her face, examining an old scar with doctor's eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" "It's not something I readily share," Olivia responded, trembling slightly under his touch. "And you had your own demons to face." "You faced mine with me," he said softly. "You could have allowed me to do the same." The moment was intense, loaded with vulnerability and nascent trust. Olivia closed her eyes briefly, allowing herself to feel the gentle touch on her face. When she opened them again, Ethan was dangerously close. "I would never hurt you," he whispered. "I know," she replied, "and that scares me even more." The lake breeze carried the scent of salt and possibilities as Olivia reopened her clinic after 3 days of absence. The first patient of the day was Ethan, and the mere idea of seeing him again after the near intimacy shared in her apartment made her heart race in an alarming way. When he entered, something had changed. He was wearing a navy blue shirt that accentuated his eyes, and there was a new purpose in his steps. Before Olivia could formally greet him, he extended his hands to her. "I accepted a consultation," he announced, with a mixture of pride and apprehension in his voice. "Next week. A complex brain tumor." Olivia felt a wave of genuine joy. "Ethan, that's wonderful. I'll only be advising the lead surgeon, not operating directly, but it's a start. A new beginning," she corrected gently. During that day's session, the conversation flowed naturally as Olivia worked with even more dedication on his fingers and wrists. "Rachel wants to meet you," Ethan commented casually as Olivia massaged his left forearm. "She says she needs to personally thank the woman who achieved the impossible." Olivia smiled, focused on the pressure points. "I didn't achieve the impossible. I just helped your body remember." "Always so modest. Will you join us for dinner tomorrow night? At the mansion?" Olivia hesitated, her rhythm faltering for a moment. "I don't know. It's just dinner," Ethan insisted, though they both knew it was much more. "All right," she finally agreed, "but I have one condition." "What? You'll cook?" Ethan laughed, a genuine sound that completely transformed his face. "You know I can barely hold a knife, right?" "Exactly." Olivia smiled, her eyes sparkling with challenge. "It'll be an excellent exercise for your hands." The next day, when Olivia arrived at the mansion, it was Rachel who opened the door, welcoming her with a warm hug that took her by surprise. "I finally meet the angel who brought my brother back," said the older woman, guiding her through the entrance hall. In the kitchen, they found Ethan struggling with vegetables and a chef's knife. He was wearing dark pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing strong forearms. "We need reinforcements here," he joked when he saw her. Dinner was prepared amid laughter and small accidents. Olivia guided his hands in cutting vegetables in an intimate ballet of intertwined fingers and intoxicating proximity. Rachel observed the interaction with attentive eyes and a knowing smile. During the meal, conversation flowed easily. Rachel told embarrassing stories from Ethan's childhood, which he protested between sips of wine, but with good humor. "And your family?" Rachel asked gently. "Do they live nearby?" Olivia delicately placed her fork on her plate. "I don't have a family, actually. My parents died in an accident when I was 16. Ethan observed her with new understanding. "I'm very sorry. It was a long time ago," she replied with a gentle smile. "I was raised by an aunt, but she passed away shortly after I got married, and after the divorce." She left the sentence incomplete. "You were left alone," Rachel completed with genuine sympathy. "I learned to enjoy my own company," Olivia responded, trying to appear stronger than she felt. "And I have my patience, Emma." "And now you have us," Rachel stated naturally. The look that Ethan and Olivia exchanged at that moment was loaded with unspoken meanings. There was mutual recognition of solitary souls who inexplicably found comfort in one another. After dinner, Rachel invented an excuse to leave them alone. Ethan invited Olivia to see the rest of the house, ending the tour in the library, an elegant room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and huge windows overlooking the nighttime lake. "This is my refuge," he confessed, serving 2 glasses of cognac. "On the hardest days after the accident, when even living seemed too great an effort, I would come here." Olivia joined him, observing the waves silvered by moonlight. They were close, their arms almost touching. "Jack contacted me again today," she said suddenly, surprising them both with her revelation. Ethan visibly tensed. "Your ex-husband? What did he want?" "The usual. A new chance, promises of change." Olivia took a sip of cognac, feeling the liquid burn her throat. "He said he still loves me. And you?" The question came out almost as a whisper. "Do you still feel something for him?" Olivia looked at Ethan for a long time before answering. "For a long time I thought so. Not love, but guilt. As if I had failed somehow." "You didn't fail," Ethan stated vehemently. "He failed you. Now I know that, but it took me time to understand." Olivia crossed her arms as if protecting herself. "You know what's most ironic? He was also a doctor, a brilliant plastic surgeon with skillful hands that both created beauty and destroyed." Ethan took Olivia's hands in his. His own hands trembled slightly, but there was determination in his touch. "I don't know what we're building here, Olivia, but I want you to know that I would never, ever raise a hand against you." Olivia felt tears forming in her eyes. "I know. How can you be sure?" he asked, genuinely curious. "After everything you've lived through?" Olivia raised one of her hands to his face, a touch delicate but decided. "Because I see your soul when I touch your hands, and it is gentle, Ethan. Beneath all the arrogance and bitterness, there is gentleness." Something broke inside him at that moment, the last barrier, the last wall of protection. Ethan slowly leaned in, giving Olivia all the time in the world to pull back if she wanted. But she didn't pull back. When their lips met, it was as if 2 broken pieces of the same puzzle had finally found each other. Morning arrived grey and humid, as if the sky understood the importance of that day. Olivia awoke with a sudden jolt after a night of restless sleep. Her thoughts alternated between the memory of the kiss and concern about the surgery that Ethan would face in a few hours. Her phone rang early. It was Rachel. "He's a bundle of nerves," the woman said without preamble. "I've never seen him so anxious." "Do you want me to come over?" Olivia offered, already getting out of bed. "Actually, he's already left for the hospital. I called because, well, I think your presence would make a difference." Olivia felt the weight of responsibility. She wasn't just a therapist concerned about her patient. She was a woman who, against all odds, was falling in love with a man as broken as herself. "I'll be there within an hour," she promised. Memorial Hospital seemed even more imposing than Olivia had imagined. At reception, she asked for Dr. Ethan Mitchell. "Ah, Dr. Mitchell is in the operating room," The receptionist replied with a smile. "It's the big news of the day, the return of our star neurosurgeon." Olivia felt a tightness in her chest. The pressure on Ethan was even greater than she had thought. The entire hospital seemed to be waiting anxiously to see if the renowned doctor still had the touch of genius. Rachel met her in the lobby, looking equally tense. "He hasn't started yet. He's in the preparation room with the team." Rachel led her through sterilized corridors to the antechamber of the operating room. Through a glass window, Olivia saw Ethan dressed in blue surgical scrubs, talking with a team of younger doctors. His posture was imposing, his presence exuded authority, but Olivia could perceive the tension in his shoulders. As if sensing her presence, Ethan looked toward the window. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment the entire hospital disappeared. Olivia placed her hand against the glass, a silent gesture of support and faith. Ethan nodded almost imperceptibly and returned his attention to the team. The following hours were the longest Olivia had ever experienced. She and Rachel waited in the visitors' area, occasionally receiving updates from nurses coming out of the operating room. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a tall, impeccably dressed man, with a serious expression and an air of indisputable authority. "Dr. Wilson," Rachel greeted, standing up. "This is the hospital director," she explained to Olivia. "Ms. Carter," the doctor extended his hand, "I've heard a lot about you. Ethan says you were instrumental in his recovery." Before Olivia could respond, a commotion came from the corridor leading to the operating room. A well-dressed man with an angry expression was arguing with a nurse. "I need to see him now." Olivia froze. She knew that voice. The world seemed to slow down as Jack, her ex-husband, turned and saw her. "Olivia," he exclaimed, moving toward her, "I was looking for you." "Dr. Harris," the director intervened, "this is a restricted area." "My patient is being operated on by Dr. Mitchell," Jack replied, without taking his eyes off Olivia. "I urgently need to speak with him." "Jack, this is neither the time nor the place," Olivia said firmly, maintaining distance. "You didn't answer my calls," he accused. "After everything we discussed." There was nothing more to say. Jack's expression hardened. "So it's true. You and Mitchell—" Olivia felt her blood freeze. "How did you—" "The entire hospital is talking. The miracle masseuse who healed the great neurosurgeon's hands." Jack completely ignored her, his gaze fixed on Olivia. "I thought you'd learned your lesson. Men like him don't stay with women like you, Olivia. He's using you." Olivia felt the impact of the words like a physical blow. "You know nothing about him, or about me. I know that you always fall in love with lost causes. First me, now a crippled surgeon." The cruelty in the words was calculated, precise as a scalpel. "Tell me, has he hit you yet?" "Not yet. It's just a matter of time." At that moment, the doors of the operating room opened. Ethan came out, still wearing surgical scrubs, looking exhausted but triumphant. His smile instantly disappeared when he saw the scene. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice cold and controlled. "Dr. Mitchell." Jack turned with a false smile. "Dr. Jack Harris. I'm a plastic surgeon here at the hospital and, well, the ex-husband of your new little therapist." The way he said "little therapist" was loaded with disdain. Ethan ignored the extended hand, his gaze alternating between Jack and Olivia. "You're the man who beat her," he said, each word precisely articulated. Jack laughed, a sound without humor. "She was always dramatic." A few marital misunderstandings transformed into horror stories. It was enough. Ethan moved with impressive speed. His hand, the same one that had trembled uncontrollably for months, grabbed Jack's collar and pushed him against the wall. "Ethan, no!" Olivia shouted. "See!" Jack provoked, even pressed against the wall. "The explosive temper. You're more alike than you think, Olivia." The insinuation hit Ethan like a physical blow. He abruptly released Jack and looked at his own hands with horror. For a terrible moment he seemed to believe the poisonous words, that perhaps in fact he wasn't so different from the man who had hurt Olivia. Security arrived, escorting Jack outside. As he was being led away, he still had time to throw a final arrow. Ask her about New York, Mitchell. Ask why she really abandoned medicine. Before we continue this journey of healing and love, leave your like and comment, Strength Olivia, to send positive energy to our protagonist. Each comment helps this story reach more hearts that need this message of hope. The rain that had begun as a light drizzle transformed into a violent storm that lashed the lakeshore in Lake Forest. The lake, previously serene, now threw furious waves against the rocks, as if reflecting the turbulence in the souls of the two separated lovers. 3 days passed without Olivia and Ethan speaking. She had cancelled all therapy sessions, delegating her patients to colleagues. She isolated herself in her apartment, ignoring calls from Rachel and messages left by Emma. She needed this time to reorganize her thoughts, to understand if what she felt for Ethan was genuine love or just the repetition of a destructive pattern. Ethan, in turn, had immersed himself in his own whirlwind of emotions. The success of the surgery had restored his professional reputation. Consultation offers arrived daily, invitations to conferences, proposals to return to the hospital full-time. His phone wouldn't stop ringing, but the one call he wished to receive never came. On the 4th night, unable to bear the silence any longer, Ethan drove to Olivia's apartment. He parked in front of the building and spent long minutes observing the lit window on the 3rd floor. Finally, he gathered the courage to exit the car. It was Rachel who opened the door, surprising him. "What are you doing here?" Ethan asked, confused. "The same as you, I imagine," his sister replied, letting him in, trying to prevent her from making a mistake. The small apartment was different. Cardboard boxes scattered on the floor, empty shelves, the unmistakable feeling of a home being dismantled. Olivia was in the kitchen, packing cups in newspaper, and froze when she saw Ethan. "You're moving?" he asked, feeling panic grow. Olivia took a deep breath before answering. "I'm going to San Francisco. An old colleague opened a holistic clinic there and invited me to be a partner." When did you decide this?" "Yesterday," Rachel answered in her place with evident disapproval. "After Jack sought her out again." Ethan felt his blood boil. "Did he threaten you?" "No," Olivia finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "He just reminded me why I need a fresh start. Away from all of this. All of this including me," Ethan stated. Olivia asked Rachel to leave them alone. When they were by themselves, the silence between them seemed like a living presence. "You don't need to run," Ethan finally said, maintaining distance. "I'm not running," Olivia replied, crossing her arms defensively. "I'm starting over. There's a difference." "Which of the two are you doing, Olivia?" The question hit her like a precise arrow. Olivia looked away. "Maybe both." "Why didn't you tell me about New York?" Ethan asked gently. "What happened there that made you abandon medicine?" Olivia closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, there was a painful resolution in her gaze. "I was a second-year resident in cardiac surgery," she began, her voice almost mechanical. "I was in an exchange program in New York when I met Jack. We fell in love, or at least that's what I thought at the time." Ethan remained silent, giving her space to continue. "In my 3rd month of residency, I assisted in an emergency surgery. A 12-year-old girl with a rare heart condition. The chief surgeon ignored my warnings about a complication I noticed. I tried to insist, but he humiliated me in front of the entire team." Olivia took a deep breath, her hands trembling. The girl died on the table, a death that could have been prevented if he had listened to me. I collapsed. I questioned everything, the medical hierarchy, the inflated egos of surgeons, my own ability to follow orders that I knew were wrong. Jack was cruel. He said I was being weak, that accidents happen, that I would never be a real surgeon if I didn't learn to deal with death. That was the first time I saw his dark side. "But you still married him," Ethan observed, without judgment in his voice. Olivia sadly nodded. "I was vulnerable, questioning everything I believed in, and he seemed so sure, so strong. I thought I needed someone like that to guide me. It was the first of many big mistakes." Ethan slowly approached. And you think you're making the same mistake with me? I don't know, Olivia admitted, finally looking at him. That's why I need distance, because when I'm close to you, I can't think clearly. All I feel is... She broke off. Desire, Ethan completed, now just a step away from her. It's not just desire, Olivia corrected, her voice almost a whisper. It's as if something inside me recognizes something in you. As if we knew each other from past lives, he completed. Olivia nodded, silent tears forming in her eyes. And that terrifies me, because what if it's just another pattern? Another wounded man I think I can heal? Ethan extended his hand, not to touch her, but offering himself, a gesture of surrender and vulnerability. There's a fundamental difference, Olivia. Jack never wanted to be healed. He wanted to control you, diminish you, because his own insecurity couldn't bear your light. The words floated between them, charged with truth. And you? Olivia asked, her voice almost inaudible. I was dying inside before you appeared, Ethan replied with brutal simplicity. Not just my hands were broken, but my soul. And you brought me back to life, not because I needed you to heal me, but because you showed me I could heal myself. A sob escaped Olivia's lips. Ethan finally closed the distance between them, wrapping her in his arms. She didn't resist, allowing herself to be embraced. I'm so afraid, she confessed, between sobs. Afraid of loving and being destroyed again. Ethan caressed her hair with infinite tenderness. I'm afraid too, afraid of not being the man you deserve. But I'd rather try and fail than live the rest of my life wondering what could have been. That night, as Ethan drove back home under the rain that was finally stopping, he felt a mixture of hope and unease. Olivia hadn't promised to stay, but she also hadn't left, and perhaps, for now, that was enough. 2 weeks passed like a hesitant dance. Olivia didn't leave for San Francisco, but she also didn't fully return to her life in Lake Forest. She reopened the clinic, returned to treating patients, except for one, Ethan. By mutual agreement, they decided to suspend the therapy sessions. Any professional relationship had been irrevocably crossed by deeper feelings. Nevertheless, they weren't completely separated. They exchanged daily messages, nighttime phone conversations that stretched for hours. They talked about everything: childhood memories, abandoned dreams, secret fears. They built an intimacy that transcended the physical, as if they were weaving thread by thread the solid foundation of something they both feared to name. On a rainy Thursday, Rachel organized a dinner to celebrate Ethan's birthday, an intimate gathering, just a few close friends and colleagues from the hospital. Olivia received the invitation with a mixture of anxiety and expectation. It would be the first face-to-face meeting since the night in her apartment. She dressed carefully, choosing an emerald green dress that highlighted her eyes. While driving to the lakeside mansion, her heart beat rapidly like a teenager on her first date. Rachel welcomed her with a warm hug. Finally! I thought I'd have to invent another crisis to bring you two together again. Olivia smiled, handing over a small package wrapped in artisanal paper. Where's the birthday boy? In the winter garden, entertaining guests with stories of his miraculous surgeries, Rachel replied, rolling her eyes with fraternal affection. Olivia followed her through the house, decorated with discreet elegance. Through the glass doors, she glimpsed Ethan animatedly conversing with a group. He was magnificently elegant in a navy suit that accentuated his eyes. As if sensing her presence, Ethan suddenly turned. Their gazes met across the salon, and for a moment everything around seemed to disappear. The guests, the music, the conversations. There were only the two of them, connected by an invisible thread that neither time nor distance had been able to break. Ethan excused himself from his group and walked toward her. His approach was slow, deliberate, as if he were recording every detail of that moment. "You came," he said simply, when they finally stood face to face. "Happy birthday," Olivia replied, handing him the package. Their fingers touched briefly during the exchange, sending an electric current through both of them. Ethan unwrapped the gift carefully. It was an antique wristwatch, elegant in its simplicity. "It was my father's," Olivia explained. The only object of his I've kept all these years. I thought, well, that it symbolized time. How it can transform even the deepest wounds into scars that strengthen us. Ethan was left speechless, moved by the significance of the gesture. This wasn't just a gift. It was Olivia sharing a part of her history, her past, a piece of who she was. "May I?" he asked, extending the watch back to her. Olivia understood the silent request. She took the watch and, with delicate gestures, placed it on his wrist, adjusting the strap. Her fingers deliberately lingered on his warm skin, feeling the strong and steady pulse under her touch. "Perfect," she whispered, more to herself than to him. The intimate moment was interrupted by the arrival of other guests. For the next hour, Olivia observed Ethan from afar, enchanted with the transformation that had taken place in him. It wasn't just the absence of tremor or the more relaxed posture. It was something deeper, as if a light had been rekindled within him. The party was going well when Olivia decided to get some air. She went out to the terrace overlooking the nighttime lake. She was so absorbed in contemplating the waves that she didn't notice someone's approach. "I didn't expect to see you here." Olivia turned, startled. Jack was standing a few steps away, impeccable in his dark suit, a glass of whiskey in hand. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to maintain a firm voice despite the shock. "I was invited," he replied with a cold smile. "I'm Ethan's colleague, remember?" Olivia instinctively looked at the door, calculating the quickest escape route. "You don't need to be afraid, Olivia. I didn't come to cause problems." "Then why did you come?" "Curiosity, maybe." He took a sip of his drink, observing her over the rim of the glass. "I wanted to see if the rumors were true." "What rumors?" "That the great Ethan Mitchell has fallen in love with the miracle masseuse. That his hands are healed thanks to your special touch." Olivia held firm, refusing to show how much his words affected her. "You don't know me anymore, Jack. And you certainly don't know Ethan." "I know men like him," Jack replied, coming closer. "Brilliant narcissists who need to be adored, who use women like trophies and discard them when they find something newer, more exciting." "Like you did with me," Olivia countered, finding courage in her indignation. Jack laughed without humor. "I loved you, Olivia, in my way. Love doesn't leave bruises." A tense silence fell between them. Jack finished his drink in one gulp. "Before we continue this journey of healing and love, leave your like and comment strength, Olivia, to send positive energy to our protagonist. Each comment helps this story reach more hearts that need this message of hope." "You haven't told him the whole truth about New York, have you?" he finally asked, in a suggestive tone. "About what really happened after that girl's death." Olivia felt her blood freeze. "Don't you dare." "Or what? He deserves to know what kind of woman he's taking to his bed." "You've said enough." Ethan's voice cut through the air like a blade. He was standing at the entrance to the terrace, his body tense like an animal ready to attack. Jack turned slowly, a sardonic smile on his lips. "Ah, the man of the moment. We were just talking about you." "Get out of my house," Ethan ordered, his voice dangerously controlled. "Don't you want to know the secret your girlfriend is hiding? Why she really abandoned a promising career in surgery?" Jack looked from one to the other. "Ask her about the medications, about how your precious therapist was almost arrested for—" The blow came fast and precise. Ethan hit Jack in the jaw with a direct punch that made him stagger backward. The glass fell, shattering on the marble floor. "Ethan!" Olivia shouted, running to him. Jack regained his balance, wiping his sore chin with his hand. Instead of reacting, he laughed. "See? He's not so different from me as you think." Ethan advanced again, but Olivia placed herself between them, hands on his chest. "No, he's not worth it." The small confrontation was beginning to attract the attention of other guests. Rachel appeared quickly, followed by Dr. Wilson. "What's going on here?" asked the director, looking from one doctor to the other. "Just a small difference of opinion," Jack replied sarcastically. "Actually, I was just leaving." As he was being escorted out, Jack still found time for one last blow. "She'll never be one of us, Mitchell, no matter how much you try to hide her in your world of privilege." When the guests returned to the main salon, only Olivia and Ethan remained on the terrace. "Your hand!" Olivia noticed, taking his right hand between hers. The knuckles were red and beginning to swell. "What was he going to say, Olivia?" Ethan asked, his eyes searching hers. "What great secret does he hold against you?" Olivia released his hand and walked to the balustrade, looking at the lake as if seeking strength in the dark depths. "After the girl died on the operating table," she began, her voice almost inaudible, "I collapsed. I couldn't sleep, barely ate. I blame myself for not insisting more." Ethan approached, stopping beside her. "Jack prescribed antidepressants for me. Since he wasn't my doctor, he used colleagues' signatures, falsified prescriptions. The medications helped at the beginning, but soon they weren't enough. I started increasing the doses on my own." "Olivia, one day I almost made a serious mistake during a simple surgery. I was suspended, investigated. They discovered the falsified prescriptions, the controlled medications that Jack was diverting for me." Her voice broke. "I was expelled from the residency program. Jack used his family's influence to cover up the case, to avoid legal consequences for me, but with one condition: that you marry him," Ethan guessed. Olivia nodded, silent tears streaming down her face. "He said it was to protect me, that he loved me and wanted to take care of me. I was so destroyed, so vulnerable. I agreed. It was the beginning of hell." Ethan gently turned her to face him. With infinite tenderness, he dried a tear from her face with his thumb. "We all carry scars, Olivia. Some visible, others hidden in the deepest recesses of our being. They are what make us human, what connect us to each other." Olivia closed her eyes, absorbing his words. "When you met me," Ethan continued, "I was a defeated, bitter man who had given up on life. You saw beyond my brokenness, beyond my failure. How could I judge you for your own battles? I'm so afraid," she confessed in a whisper. "Afraid that when you know me completely, with all my flaws, you won't be able to love me anymore." Ethan framed her face in his hands. "Olivia Carter, I met you broken, and that's exactly how I fell in love with you. Not despite your scars, but because of them, because they show that you fought, you survived." The tears now freely flowed down Olivia's face, but they were different from the previous ones. They were no longer tears of pain or shame, but of liberation. "I love you," she finally confessed, the words coming out like a long withheld prayer. Ethan leaned in, reducing the space between them until their lips almost touched. "Then let me love you back," he whispered against her mouth. "Not to heal you, nor to be healed, but for us to walk together, imperfect, scarred, and yet complete in each other." If this story is touching your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to receive our next stories. Type "I love Ethan" in the comments, so we know you're following this journey of redemption to the end. Your presence inspires us to continue. When their lips finally met, it was with the reverence of two souls recognizing each other, finally free from the secrets and fears that had kept them apart. The end of summer came to Lake Forest, bringing with it the promise of transformation. For Olivia and Ethan, it was as if the outer world reflected the inner change they were experiencing, the slow and deliberate learning of building something together. After the birthday party and the confrontation with Jack, something fundamental had changed between them. The final barrier of secrets and fears had fallen, allowing them to finally surrender to the feeling that had grown since the first touch. Olivia had partially resumed her role as therapist, no longer in formal sessions, but guiding Ethan in exercises that continued to strengthen his hands. He, in turn, had definitely returned to the hospital, not as the lead surgeon, but as a consultant and mentor to young doctors. "You changed my way of looking at medicine," he confessed one night as they dined on the balcony of her apartment. "Before, I measured success by the number of surgeries. Now I understand that healing goes far beyond technique." Olivia smiled, touched by the transformation she was witnessing. "The best doctors are those who understand that they are treating people, not just bodies." The moment was interrupted by the sound of Ethan's phone. He frowned when he saw the hospital number. "Mitchell," he answered, his voice automatically assuming a professional tone. Olivia watched his expression quickly change from curiosity to shock, then to a somber determination. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said before hanging up. "What happened?" Olivia asked. "Serious accident on the highway, multiple injured, several with severe head trauma. The hospital is calling all available neurosurgeons." He was already on his feet, collecting his keys. "Will you operate?" Olivia asked, the concern evident in her voice. "If necessary," he replied simply. Around midnight, her own phone rang. It was Rachel, her voice trembling with emotion. "Olivia, you need to come to the hospital. Now." "What happened? Is Ethan okay?" Immediate panic gripped her chest. "He is operating." Rachel's hesitation was palpable. "It's Jack." Olivia felt as if the world had stopped spinning. "Jack!" He was in the accident, severe head trauma, internal bleeding. No other available neurosurgeon had enough experience for the necessary procedure. "And Ethan volunteered," Olivia concluded. "Not just volunteered, insisted." Rachel paused. "Olivia, you need to be here. For him." Memorial Hospital was bustling with activity when she arrived. The emergency room was full of accident victims. Rachel was waiting in the lobby, her face pale with concern. "How is he?" Olivia asked, hugging her friend. "He's been in the operating room for 2 hours already. The nurses say it's one of the most delicate procedures they've ever seen." Olivia felt a tremor run through her entire body. "His hands are steady," Rachel completed. "The assisting surgeon said he's never seen such precision." Hours passed in an agonizing limbo. The waiting room filled and emptied as other surgeries ended, but Ethan and Jack remained in the operating room. Olivia alternated between nervous walks down the corridor and moments of silent contemplation, praying to a God she wasn't sure she still believed in. Finally, at 5 in the morning, the double doors of the operating room opened. Ethan came out, still wearing the blood-stained surgical scrubs, his face marked by a weariness that went beyond the physical. His eyes immediately found Olivia, as if he knew exactly where she would be. "He'll live," he said simply, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. Olivia took a hesitant step toward him. "You saved his life." "I did my job," Ethan replied, a slight tremor now visible in his hands, as if, once the mission was completed, his body finally allowed itself to show the strain it had endured. "Why?" Olivia asked softly. The question hung between them, loaded with implicit meanings. Ethan looked at his own hands, now trembling, then at Olivia. "Because he's important to you." "Jack hurt me in every possible way," Olivia argued, confused. "He tried to destroy my life, my reputation, my future. Why would you think he's important to me?" "I didn't say he's important in a positive way," Ethan clarified, raising a tired hand to his face. "But he's part of your history, your journey to this place. And I love you too much to let you carry the weight of his death for the rest of your life, even if he deserves much less than what he received from me today." Olivia felt tears burning her eyes. In that single gesture, saving the life of the man he most hated, who represented everything wrong in a relationship, Ethan had demonstrated a love that transcended selfishness, resentment, human nature's very pursuit of revenge. "How long did the surgery last?" Rachel asked, breaking the charged silence. 7 hours, Ethan answered, exhaustion evident in every syllable. "The damage was extensive. We had to improvise at certain moments." "Your hands," Olivia began, noticing how they trembled now. "They didn't tremble once during surgery," he said with a small, tired smile. "It looks like your therapy worked when it mattered most." Olivia took another step toward him, now just centimeters away. With delicacy, she took his hands in hers, as she had done hundreds of times during therapy sessions. But this time, there was no technique, no pressure points to work on. There was only the intimacy of touch, the silent communication of souls that recognize each other. "You didn't do this for him," she said softly. "You did it for me." Ethan nodded slightly. "For you, because I love you enough not to let you carry another unnecessary burden." Olivia stood on her tiptoes, and in front of everyone, nurses, doctors, waiting patients, kissed him with the intensity of someone who had finally found a safe harbor after a lifetime of storms. "Take me home," she whispered against his lips when they finally separated. "You're home." Rachel smiled discreetly, understanding the significance of that moment. "I'll stay and monitor his recovery." You need to rest. During the drive to the lakeside mansion, Ethan and Olivia remained in silence, hands intertwined over the car's center console, as if they feared that if they let go, the magic of that moment would dissipate. When they finally arrived, the sun was already rising over the lake, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Ethan seemed about to faint from exhaustion, but there was a serenity in his face that Olivia had never seen before. "You should sleep," she suggested, guiding him into the house. "I don't want to be away from you," he replied simply. "Not after everything." Olivia understood the depth of those words. She led him to the master bedroom, where she helped him remove his lab coat and shoes. With gentle gestures, she guided him to the bed. When she prepared to leave and let him rest, he held her hand. "Stay?" he asked, his eyes already closing from fatigue. Olivia didn't hesitate. She lay down beside him, allowing him to wrap her in his arms. In that embrace there was more intimacy than any physical act could provide. It was the total surrender of two people who had finally found a home in each other. "I need to make love to you," he murmured sleepily, his voice almost inaudible against her neck. Olivia smiled, caressing his hair. "Sleep now. We have all the time in the world. Don't move," he continued, already entering the world of dreams, "or it will hurt more." And with those words, not an order or demand, but a promise of care and future connection, Ethan finally surrendered to exhaustion, falling asleep with his face buried in Olivia's hair, their hands intertwined over her heart. Olivia remained awake a little longer, observing the man who had sacrificed his pride, his personal convictions, and almost his health to protect her from a pain she didn't even know she feared. In that moment she understood that true love doesn't lie in grand romantic gestures or eternal promises, but in the willingness to do what is right, even when it's painful, even when it goes against our most basic instincts. With that comforting thought, she closed her eyes and allowed herself, for the first time in years, to sleep without fear, without reservations, completely surrendered to the imperfect but true love they had built from their brokenness. Jack's recovery progressed slowly. For weeks, he remained in the hospital, undergoing several additional surgeries and facing a long rehabilitation process. Ethan, with admirable professionalism, supervised his case, ensuring he received the best possible treatment, not out of sympathy or forgiveness, but because that was the kind of doctor he had become. Olivia, in turn, faced her own healing journey. She had decided not to flee to San Francisco, but to stay and face her demons. She permanently reopened her clinic, but also initiated a parallel project, a rehabilitation program for victims of domestic violence, combining her expertise in alternative therapies with psychological support. One afternoon, 4 months after the accident, Olivia received an unexpected message. Jack had been discharged from the hospital and wanted to see her. Her first instinct was to refuse, but something inside her knew this was a chapter that needed to be properly closed. "I'll go with you," Ethan offered when she told him about the request. Olivia smiled, gently touching his face. "Thank you, but this is something I need to do alone. Trust me." Ethan nodded, understanding. It was part of the new balance they had found. Support without control, protection without possessiveness. "I'll be waiting for you." The meeting took place at a neutral cafe in downtown Lake Forest. When Olivia arrived, Jack was already there, seated at a corner table. He looked different, thinner, older, with a still reddish scar visible at his hairline. He stood up with difficulty when he saw her approaching. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice softer than Olivia had ever heard. "Why did you want to see me, Jack?" she asked directly, sitting down. He took a deep breath, looking at the untouched coffee cup in front of him. "To thank you, and to apologize." He raised his eyes to look at her. "I know words can't erase what I did." Not even brain surgery and months of rehabilitation were enough to make me forget the monster I was to you." Olivia remained silent, studying the man before her. There was a humility in him she had never seen before. "The doctors say I'm lucky to be alive," Jack continued, "that if it weren't for Mitchell's skill, I'd be dead or vegetating in a bed. The man who hated me saved my life." "Ethan didn't do it for you," Olivia replied calmly. "He did it because that's who he is. And also for you," Jack added with a small, sad smile. "I always knew you deserved someone better, someone capable of seeing your light without trying to extinguish it." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with years of pain, regret, and finally, acceptance. "I'm leaving," Jack said finally. "I accepted a position at a hospital in Seattle, a new beginning." Olivia felt a wave of relief and, surprisingly, a pinch of compassion. "I wish you peace, Jack," she said sincerely. "And I wish you the happiness you always deserved." He hesitated before adding, "He really loves you, doesn't he?" Olivia didn't need to ask who he was referring to. "Yes, and I love him too." Jack nodded, a gesture of final acceptance. "Then I did at least one right thing in my life. In trying to destroy him, I ended up uniting you." When Olivia left the cafe an hour later, she felt lighter than she had in years. She hadn't forgiven Jack. Some wounds were too deep for that. But she had found something equally powerful: liberation. She drove straight to Ethan's mansion, where she found him on the terrace looking at the lake. He turned when he heard her, his eyes seeking hers in a silent question. "It's done," she said simply, joining him at the balustrade. A chapter closed. Ethan intertwined his fingers with hers. His hands, now rarely trembling, conveyed strength and security. "How do you feel?" Olivia reflected for a moment, observing the waves breaking against the rocks below. "Free." They remained there, side by side, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of red and orange. Ethan turned to her, taking both her hands in his. "Olivia Carter," he began, his voice firm but gentle. "When we met, I was a broken man, convinced I would never be whole again. You didn't just heal my hands, you restored my soul." Olivia felt her heart accelerate, sensing the solemnity of the moment. "I don't know what the future holds," Ethan continued, "but I know I want to face it by your side. Not as your patient, not just as your lover, but as your partner, your equal, your life companion." Slowly, like someone performing a long-rehearsed movement, he knelt before her, still holding her hands. From his pocket, he took out a small gold ring with a single blue sapphire. "Marry me," he asked simply. "Not because we need each other to be complete, but because together we are stronger, truer, more fully ourselves." Olivia felt tears of joy forming in her eyes. This man, who had once feared to touch anything for fear of failure, was now offering her his heart, open, without reservations. "Yes," she answered, her voice almost a whisper. "Yes, Ethan Mitchell, I will marry you." When he placed the ring on her finger, both noticed something extraordinary. Ethan's hands weren't trembling at all. They were the firm and sure hands of a man who had found his way back to life, not just as a surgeon, but as a human being capable of loving and being loved. He rose and took her in his arms, kissing her with a passion that spoke of fulfilled promises and new journeys to begin. When they finally separated, both were breathless, foreheads touching, identical smiles mirrored on their faces. "Do you know what this means?" Ethan asked, his eyes sparkling with humor and desire. "What?" Olivia replied, already anticipating his answer. He leaned in, his lips brushing her ear, as he whispered the same words that had once said so much about their future together. "I need to make love to you now. Don't move, or it will hurt more." Olivia laughed, a free and genuine laugh that echoed over the lake. "Is that a promise, Dr. Mitchell?" "It's a diagnosis, Mrs. Mitchell," he replied, lifting her in his arms with a strength that they both knew came not just from his recovered muscles, but from the absolute certainty that they had found, in each other, the home they had both always sought. The golden light of late afternoon bathed the small lakeside garden where colorful flowers danced in the breeze. Tables decorated with elegant simplicity were arranged in a semicircle, each occupied by smiling faces, colleagues from the hospital, recovered patients, friends made along the way. In the center of the garden, under an arch of white and blue roses, Olivia adjusted the small bow tie on Max's linen suit, their 4-year-old son. The boy fidgeted impatiently, his eyes, identical to his father's, sparkling with excitement. "Mum, can I go play now?" he asked with that innocence that always melted her heart. Olivia smiled, making a final adjustment to the bow tie. "Just a minute more, honey. Daddy's almost here." As if summoned by her words, Ethan appeared on the stone path leading to the garden. At 47, he was even more handsome than when they'd met. A few grey hairs at his temples only accentuated his natural elegance. In his arms, comfortably nestled, was Lily, their 2-year-old daughter, who had inherited her mother's honey eyes and gentle smile. "Sorry for the delay," Ethan said, approaching to briefly kiss Olivia. Someone insisted on changing her dress 3 times. Olivia laughed, taking her daughter in her arms. "Just like her father, perfectionist." "Just like her mother," Ethan corrected with an affectionate smile. "Stubborn." Max, unable to contain his energy, was insistently pulling at his father's hand. "Can we cut the cake now? Aunt Rachel said there's chocolate inside." Ethan feigned astonishment. "Chocolate? On our wedding anniversary? Who would have thought of that?" The boy laughed, not noticing the irony. "Aunt Rachel, of course. She knows chocolate is my favorite." "And mine too, coincidentally," Ethan added, winking at Olivia. Rachel approached, elegant as always, though now she walked with the help of a cane. At 60, she continued to be the stabilizing force in their lives. 5 years, she said, embracing her brother, and then Olivia. "Who would have thought that stubborn masseuse and my grumpy brother would create all of this?" Olivia looked around, her heart overflowing with gratitude. The garden was part of the new home they had built, smaller than the old mansion, cozier, filled with the combined energy of their lives. Next to the main house was the integrated clinic they had founded together, the Mitchell Carter Rehabilitation Center, where traditional medicine and alternative therapies coexisted harmoniously. "I heard that Jack was named head of plastic surgery in Seattle," Rachel commented casually. "Apparently he's doing great work there, mainly with burn victims." Ethan nodded, without rancor in his voice. "I'm glad for him." It was true. Time and life shared with Olivia had healed not just his hands, but his heart. Forgiveness, not for the past, but for what he might have become, had been part of his own healing journey. The sound of glasses being tapped announced the beginning of the celebrations. Friends gathered around them as Max ran between the tables, his contagious laughter filling the afternoon air. Dr. Wilson, now retired but still a respected presence, raised his glass. "To 5 years of the most unlikely and inspiring union I've ever witnessed. To Olivia and Ethan, who taught us that true healing begins when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable." Applause and toasts resonated throughout the garden. Ethan pulled Olivia closer, his arm wrapping around her waist, while Lily, still in her mother's arms, played with the necklace that Olivia always wore. A small pendant of intertwined hands that Ethan had given her on their first wedding anniversary. "Happy?" he whispered against her hair. Olivia turned to look at him, those same blue eyes that had captivated her at their first meeting, now softened by love and shared experiences. "More than I ever thought possible," she replied, resting her forehead against his. The sun was beginning to set over the lake, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Max came running back to them, pulling them toward the cake. Lily clapped excitedly in anticipation. Ethan and Olivia exchanged a knowing look before following their son. A look that said everything words couldn't express. Gratitude for the pain that had united them, joy for the love they had built, and the silent promise to continue healing each other day by day until the end of their lives. And as they walked together, hands intertwined, toward the future they had created, both knew that the greatest proof of love wasn't in words whispered in darkness, but in the courage to allow oneself to be vulnerable, to show one's scars, and yet believe that one deserves to be loved fully. The end. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and share with friends and family who need to hear this message of hope. To continue supporting stories like this and gain access to exclusive content, consider becoming a member of the channel by clicking the Become a Member button below. Each donation helps us continue bringing inspirational stories like this to you. Comment below what was your favorite part and what story you would like to hear next.